Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. My name is Ross Benjamin, host of the show, and it is Tuesday, September the 12th, and I'm joined by my astute colleagues, Mr. Paul Bovi and Chip Chrimbes of GamblersWorld.net. We are sponsored by Gamblers World, and folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Some of the finest handicappers in the country and the best sports betting podcast on the internet today. And again, folks, you'll see a subscribe button if you're watching on your mobile device, which most of you are, right underneath your video box. Just click on that and it'll subscribe you for absolutely free. No charge, no hidden agenda, no tricks. You're just privy to some of the best sports betting information you'll find anywhere on the internet. And also, if you are watching on your PC, you'll see a WC logo right in the bottom right-hand corner of your video box. Just click on that. Same thing, absolutely free. It'll get you subscribed. And I'm going to ask you to take one step further. Go into your YouTube settings and also click on that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, and you'll be alerted immediately upon any of our sports betting podcast being published on our channel. Chip, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great as long as we can play Sunday and Monday nights. You know how I've done on those standalone games the last few years. And
yes, you have.
Have two New York teams for and against them, although it's kind of sad about what happened to the Jets.
Yeah, really a terrible story there, Paul. You know, with Aaron Rodgers going down. I don't care what team you squeeze for in the NFL. I don't care what side you're on from a betting perspective. You never want to see the star players go down. It takes away from the quality of the game, and it's not good for us, the football fans. You want to see the best players on the field. Unfortunately, it's part of the game, though, Paul.
Yeah, after Sunday night, I didn't think it could get any worse as a Giant fan, being goose egged by the Dallas Cowboys. But that was really horrific. We're sorry to see that. And I remember when Aaron Rodgers went down, I'm going to say about 6 or 7 years ago. And, you know, basically the Packers were basically put into obscurity, so to speak. So this is unfortunate. We'll see what the Jets have in store as far as any moves they're going to make, or do they go with the kid from Brigham Young? It remains to be seen.
Yeah, I would think at this point they would have to go with the kid from Brigham Young. I mean, you drafted him number one. And again, the Jets have had continual failures with number one draft choices being quarterbacks. But, give the kid a chance at this point. I thought he showed a lot of poise last night. He had one ill-advised throw that was intercepted. But, at the end of the day, Chip, you're not going to find much better of a defense than the New York Jets in the NFL.
But they play, and I'm wondering if they're going to rally around Wilson. You know, he looks much improved this year. I mean, he looks confident, and it's his third year there. So maybe he can make the leap. But losing Rodgers, I don't think he can compare to being with him. And what a letdown for the Jets. I mean, all the hype that we've had for the last 2 months, and then the fourth play of the season, he goes down. I could actually say I think it's kind of sinful, though I'm not a Jet fan. And, it's bad for the NFL because it would have been a great fodder for the whole year to be able to discuss what Rodgers is doing in the Jets. But, Wilson, he's got to step up, and we'll see if the number one pick is going to be worth it. So far, the last 2 years, he hasn't shown much. But he looks a lot better this season, a lot more confidence.
Well, the second most disappointing thing was the performance by Josh Allen, specifically in the second half, Paul. Again, I'm close to the situation here in Western New York. He just hasn't been the same quarterback since Brian Dable left and went to the Giants as their head coach. He doesn't seem to have the same relationship with their current offensive coordinator right now, Ken Dorsey, former quarterback over at Miami of Florida.
Right.
It seems like, he's gone back and reverted back to playing hero ball, making ill-advised throws, being impatient. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a Jets defense he struggled against since last year. And maybe it's just a component of just a lack of discipline since Dable left. But whatever the case may be, it's not good news for what we've seen from Ellen last night. I know it's one game, Paul, but just your take on that.
Well, first of all, whenever I think of Ken Dorsey, I now think of him throwing that clipboard at the end of the game last year. But I will say this. I think it's a case of Josh Allen. He just lacks restraint. And these are the things that when you're in your fourth or fifth year, you would have learned. Throw the ball away. He doesn't do that. And I put up a tweet last night sometime in the third quarter that it seems like he's plateaued. He got great from, I think it was like year 2 to year 3, and now he seems like he's leveled off. And unless he exercises that restraint, I think the Buffalo Bills are not going to get to the next level. I don't think it's going to happen.
You know,
I couldn't
Ross,
agree more.
I think part of the problem for him may be that he's the leading rusher on this team, and that multiplies the pressure on him. I think he can't hand it to another back, and they're going to gain significant yardage. When you're the leading rusher and you're the quarterback, I think you got problems.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. Look, a lot of that has to do with the fact he's so mobile for his size. But by the same token, too, Chipper, he's not going to last very long in the NFL if he continues to do what he did last night. And when I say that, I'm talking about, you got to if you're going to run, slide, get out of bounds. Yeah. He doesn't shy away from hits. And, I mean, that's bravado, and that makes the fans love the type of player he is. But in the NFL, it stands for not for long if you continue to play with that kind of style.
Yeah. Sure, he's physical for sure, but
he's already sustained a concussion a few years ago. So at this point, you can't afford any more of those. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks driven out of the league, RG3, because they have that same mindset. I'm going to absorb the contact. I'm going to covet the contact, and then all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3 concussions, and it's lights out. So hopefully he will learn at some point. Yeah, you got to slide, you got to get rid of the ball, but you don't take the contact.
Yeah, he hasn't sustained a concussion, actually, Paul.
I thought he did.
No, he didn't. He hurt his. He got hurt in his second year on a sack, and then last year with an elbow injury. But he's got to sustain concussions. I'm surprised he hasn't to this point. With the style of play. Anyway, we're going to be talking about NFL games today, and Paul will be looking at the LA Chargers and the Tennessee Titans. The Chipper is going to look at Kansas City and Jacksonville, and I'm going to be looking at Green Bay at Atlanta. College football this past weekend, guys. Alabama gets knocked off by Texas. Just doesn't look like the same Alabama team to me. I don't think this kid at quarterback is ready for the limelight of being an Alabama quarterback. But again, give credit to Texas, Paul, for what they accomplished on the field in Tuscaloosa on Saturday.
Absolutely. This Alabama defense lost a lot. And normally the cupboard is stocked, but it wasn't this year. They lost 6 of the top 7 tacklers, 515 tackles amongst those 6. It was 22 sacks, 33 tackles for loss. And it showed up because Ewers had a pretty good game, and they couldn't really stop Texas in the second half. So they couldn't get back into the game. The Longhorns came through, and I'm sure there's a lot of happy alumni over there. It doesn't look like it's going to be a great year in Tuscaloosa.
Well, the SEC and
I'm sorry. I just want to say, you're talking about an Alabama defense last year that really wasn't up to their standards, and they lost 6 of their top tacklers, as Paul just said. So they really may be down. They may have an off year. People are expecting some competition out of the SEC, and I guess we're going to see it.
Yeah, and as Paul alluded to, I mean, Texas put up over 300 yards passing in that game. The SEC as a whole, though, guys, has been disappointing to start the year. Maybe not just in pure wins and losses, but when we're talking sports betting, I know I gave out a free pick on California against Auburn on last week's show, and took a lot of heat for doing so. yet. California should have won the game outright. They covered,
Yes.
losing 14-10, but they also missed 3 field goals. They were inside the 25 on 6 occasions and only scored on 3 of those occasions. So just your general take is the SEC going to be continue to be overvalued what's left in the non-conference portion of their schedule, which basically is this week, guys? Start with you, Chip.
It's hard for me to think that the SEC is taking a step down, though they may have because of Alabama all alone. But and LSU, we were very disappointed what we saw from them the opening week. I had California, like you said, and I thought the line was very suspect as low as it was. And maybe the SEC is coming back to the pack.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still the best conference in the land until somebody proves otherwise.
Yeah.
But Paul, your take on that, and we'll get on to our games.
I believe they gave up 84 combined points last year to Tennessee and LSU. So as Chip alluded to, they weren't great last year.
Yeah.
And I think they are taking a step back. And I do think Tennessee will be the best team, the superior force in that conference. Florida's not what they were.
No.
I just think the SEC is poised for regression right here. And we'll see other conferences possibly step up.
Yeah, like I told the Florida fans at the beginning of the year when I took Utah over Florida, and they were crucifying me and coming across like they're going to win a national championship. First of all, you look at the regular season win total set by the odds makers, which was 5.5. And then secondly, tell me how you're going to contend in the SEC with Graham Mertz at quarterback. If you watch that kid at Wisconsin, the kid was a 5-star coming out of high school, but he's proven to be nothing short of a monumental failure at the major college level. So we'll see what happens there. A lot of season yet to be played, and I'm sure we'll catch some flack here for our opinions from the SEC faithful, because there's plenty of them out there. And you know what? One thing, folks, remember, it's not us ganging up on the SEC. Our job is to pick games against the spread. We're out to beat a number. We can care less how many players that Auburn brought in on a transfer portal in their head coaching change. If we know about it, you know about it. Rest assured, the odds makers knows about it, and they incorporate it into the line. So if you want to get way caught up with players and you're new to sports betting, that's going to be your first mistake. I would advise you continue to play fantasy. Or listen to our opinions, one of the two. Anyway, Paul, the LA Chargers at the Tennessee Titans. The Chargers last week lose 36-34. They scored 34 points at home. They rushed for over 200 yards, and they lose the game. Why? Because their defense was terrible, or Miami's offense is really elite, or a combination of both, which I think is more, the latter statement is more the truth than anything, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter what I think. All I know is when you score 34 points at home since 1980, you win 87.5% of the time, and you cover 81.7% of the time, let alone if you add in the fact if you score 34 and rush for over 200 yards. I'm not even going to get into that figure because it's astronomical, but it's somewhere around 95%. And as Chip would say, you know what, Ross, but 5% of the time they don't cover. Anyway, Paul, your take on the LA Chargers in Tennessee. Chargers minus 345.
Well, that 12.5% kicked my butt last week because I had the Chargers. I had them on the money line. I could have got out of it. And you made a great point because the Charger defense was abysmal. These receivers ran across the middle unmolested. Tyreek Hill, 11 receptions, 15 targets for 215 yards. And there were 2 red zone turnovers, an interception by Tua and a fumble at the 2-yard line. So it could have been prohibitively worse. Tua was not sacked. Where was Joey Bosa? Where was Khalil Mack? And there were only 2 quarterback hits. So at this point, how do you get behind this Charger defense? By the way, J.C. Jackson was responsible for a few of those botch coverages. J.C. Jackson only played 5 games last year. So I don't know. Is this guy going to revert back to the form of 2019? I'm not sure, but I'm not willing to roll the dice with a team that showed me nothing on defense. Now, their offense, yes, they did run the ball very successfully through that Dolphin defense. I look at the number, I look at the over and under, and I look at Ryan Tannehill. He wasn't particularly great on Sunday. I think he was 16 at 34 for just a shade under 200, but the problem was 3 interceptions. But he's got receivers over there. I mean, Hopkins, Akine, he's got Trey Burks, and obviously he's got a star running back who's approaching 30, but still getting it done. So I'm going to look at the total here. I think the number fair value should be in the area of around 47. I'm not willing to toss the towel in on Ryan Tannehill. So at 45, it looks very appealing to take the over here. I simply, for reasons mentioned, I can't back the Chargers. I can't back Tennessee because they've got a couple newbies on the offensive line. If these guys are going to have success up front, meaning Bosa and Khalil Mack, it should be against an offensive line that looks like the Tennessee Titans. But so I'm going to look for this game to tilt over the 45. Not one of my strongest plays, but that's where I'd go with it.
Again, these are assigned plays, so it's not like the guys are picking, cherry picking the game they want to use. It's just the way we roll on this channel. So, folks, if Paul said that's not a game that he's overly enamored with, it's an opinion play, but we do record it as a free pick and we do use it as our records. But keep that in mind because you can get all 3 of our plays simply by going to gamblersworld.net. And it's there where we guarantee our plays, meaning if you do not make a profit on a single game or multi-game package, or a subscription plan of 30 days or less, we will credit your account the exact amount of your purchase price, and you could use it toward any other of the handicappers, or you could use it toward the same handicapper, whatever you prefer at any time you wish as well. Chipper, we talked last week with Sean and Jesse on this show, and they were kidding me that I said, as long as Tua stays healthy, Miami's going to be a force. And they laughed and they said, well, you know what? What's the chance of him staying healthy, Ross? Well, he's 1 hit away from having a concussion. Well, I'll tell you what, last week, he didn't even have to wash his uniform at the end of the game because they didn't lay a paw on him. Anyway, Chipper, you're just an opinion and what Paul had to say on this LA Chargers Tennessee matchup.
Well, I think, like I said, if Tua stays healthy, I think they're going to be a viable threat. He gets rid of the ball quick. He knows how to run an offense. He's very, very accurate. And he has to be able to get rid of the ball because he's a rag doll out there. They're going to have to protect him. And I think that's the key to Miami's success is this guy staying healthy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, a very concerning concussion problem there, Paul, with Tua. Yeah. And he's 1 hit away from possibly ending his career at this point.
Yes.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's hope we don't have the same type of scenario we saw with Aaron Rodgers last night. Because, again, if they lose Tua, their plan B, meaning their backup quarterback situation, is not ideal, which most NFL teams are going to fall under that category. So we'll see what happens. But again, at Tennessee, I'm going to give Ryan Tannehill a little bit of a pass, only because I think he faced a New Orleans defense last week that is much better than people expect, or better than people thought. So they did play New Orleans last week, as I recall. No or yes, guys?
Yes.
Okay.
So by the way,
I want to make sure I'm not giving inaccurate information.
Backdoor cover.
I have to make one more point about Miami. Okay, they did not have Terrence Armstead on Sunday. Now, last year when Armstead was out of the lineup, Miami averaged 16.5 points a game. When he was in the lineup, 26.5 points a game, and that's what pointed me to a play on the Chargers. I'm not going to lie. So the fact that they perform so well or the Chargers perform so poorly, given those circumstances, is alarming for LA. It really is. So hopefully they're going to get this right, because if they don't, they're in for a long year. And I'm going to lose a bet because I have the Chargers over 9.5. It's one of my win totals.
There you go. I had the Chargers as well last week, but because my left arm's broken doesn't mean I feel better about your right arm being broken as well. Also,
Yeah.
in any event, yeah, I mean, the one concern above and beyond the health of Tua that I would have for Miami is they gave up over 200 yards rushing to a team in the LA Chargers that was one of the worst rushing teams in football last year. Matter of fact, near the bottom of the league at 87 yards per game. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that was just something that was a one-time thing, but keep an eye on that going forward because they're going to have to be much better against the run and you can't expect Tua to throw for 470 yards a game and Tyreek Hill to get 200 yards rushing receiving a game. So anyway, Kansas City at Jacksonville, Chip. Kansas City -3 to total 51. The Chiefs coming off that Monday night disappointing loss against the Detroit Lions. And one thing that was really concerning to me when I saw them is I don't know how concerned you should be, but your opinion means a lot to me. Is Kansas City was very underwhelming offensively compared to the standard that they've set over the last few years. What's your take on this one, my friend?
All right, coming off Green Bay opening week, I was really happy with that. And I was looking forward to this matchup 2-3 weeks before the season started. I thought Kansas City's playing Thursday night opener against Detroit, and Jacksonville's opening at Indianapolis. And, my opinion was wrong on both these games. Now, these two teams are meeting each other. I would have loved to have seen Kansas City win big, Jacksonville squeak by, and then I would be on the Jaguars here. But so that's going to eliminate that side because I think I've lost my edge with that. And we go back to Kansas City. They didn't run the ball at all. The kid from Rutgers, what's his name? Panchenko. He had 23 yards gained on 8 carries, and they only allowed 45. They only had 45 yards rushing for the game. And you know what? I think ordinarily maybe that wouldn't bother them, but Mahomes didn't look as strong and as good as he has in the past. And I'm really wondering, he threw a lot of passes short, and he just didn't look like the same Mahomes to me. He threw for 226 yards. He had 39 attempts. Kansas City's beaten his team 7 straight times, and they're 8-2 in the last 10, 6-3-1 against the number, but those were different Jacksonville teams. Now, this team, you have Lawrence here. They beat Indianapolis. They were losing 21-17 entering the fourth quarter with a rookie quarterback with the Colts and no running game with the Colts. And yet they were able to muscle up in the fourth quarter, dominated the fourth quarter, won and covered. And by the way, Josh Allen had 3 sacks. Oh, I thought he's not playing with Buffalo anymore. That's the defensive guy for Jacksonville. That was a career high. But, they allowed only 2.5 yards per rush in their opening game against the Colts. And I think this is going to be a big-time passing game for both sides. The total is very high, I think, considering they don't move the ball on the ground, which means they're going to put the ball in the air, I would expect. And I think this game goes over the total. I would have liked Jacksonville, like I said, if they had played a closer game and if KC had won over Detroit. But I'm going to have to stay away from that right now. Maybe I'll come up with some information during the week. But right now, I think the play here is the total. I'm going to go over. And hopefully there'll be a lot of points scored on my side.
Yeah, and in Patrick Mahomes' defense, he was out without his number one target. Travis Kelce was out of the game. I don't know if he's going to return this week. I know they said he was probable. They really liked his chances of playing in week 2. But again, we have to factor that in as well. And if he returns to the lineup, then you really got a good case, Chip.
Well, he's a great tight end, but he doesn't stretch the field. You're going to throw to him. He's going to be 12, 15 yards down the field. And since they lost Hill, they just don't seem to have that game breaker that Mahomes can get the ball to and they make the big play. So maybe that's a negative on their offense, but Kelce coming back, I think has definitely got to help. And I think Lawrence has got, they're going to look to put points up against the Chiefs. They know they have to score against this team because of how prolific this team has been offensively since they've had Mahomes.
Well, Paul, Tyreek Hill wasn't with Kansas City last year. And the last I checked, they won a world championship. But another guy, Chip makes a good point, though. because at one point 2 years ago, they had both him and McCole Hardman that stretched the field. And that's no longer the case. It seems like you have Kelsey and some possession receivers right now. Yeah. What's your take on what you witnessed from Kansas City and what you expect going forward, Paul?
Well, also, let's not forget about Juju, who's not great, but he was targeted 101 times last year and caught 78. That's pretty good. So it made Hardman more effective. So those two guys are gone, and enter Kadarius Toney, who did his best imitation of Roberto Duran. Okay, for those of you who don't know Roberto Duran's nickname, it's called Hands of Stone, and he was responsible for that pick six. So I think Kansas City, look, I'm on their win total for the year under, and I was very happy they lost the game, and I'll be happy if they lose on Sunday. But I think they're going to get their offense going. I'm not saying it's going to be as prolific as in years past, but if you get back Kelsey, Mahomes will make some of these receivers into better ones. Sky Moore, obviously, is a guy who's pretty unproven at this point. And of course, Toney has got to perform. Look, I was happy when the Giants got rid of him because the guy was never in the lineup, played roughly 33% of the game. So even if he does start to perform, you wonder how long he will stick around. So look, I'm going to agree with Chip here. I don't think it's going to blow away the number if it does go over, but I could see some points being put on the board.
Well, I'll close with this. Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran, and in terms of any further opinions on this game, no mas. Anyway, Green Bay at Atlanta, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Green Bay right now is a 1.5-point favorite. The total is 40. Atlanta comes off a 24-10 home win over Carolina. I cashed with them, but I felt very, very fortunate, especially when you look at the box score and see that the Atlanta Falcons only had 221 yards of total offense last week, was able to score 24 points. They were a beneficiary of facing a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young, who threw 2 picks. They were also +3 in the turnover differential department. And, here's the other thing. Atlanta only ran 44 offensive plays in this game. And, folks, if you check out the average offensive plays per team, or you even look at the box scores last week on what the majority of teams have in terms of offensive plays, 44 is not a number that's going to win you a lot of games, but they did here, and it was an absolute fluke in my estimation, and they were a beneficiary of a matchup against a team that's not very good right now, and with the rookie quarterback, as I alluded to. Green Bay, on the other hand, off that 38-20 road win at Chicago, Jordan Love, look, first ever start, will be tremendous. Not really, but he was pretty efficient. 15 out of 27 isn't a great completion percentage, but he didn't throw any interceptions, and he threw 3 touchdown passes. I certainly like him much better at this stage of his career than I do Atlanta's quarterback, Desmond Ridder. I also look for the running back tandem of A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones to be very productive in this game against an Atlanta team that last week surrendered 130 yards rushing. That will be a key to not only them covering this game, in my opinion, but also controlling the clock. And here's another thing. I like my betting angles, Chip. Since 2019, NFL and non-division away teams with the point spread of +3 to -3, like Green Bay is, and they're playing either games 2, 3, or 4 in the season, and they're coming off a game in which they were on the road as well. So back-to-back road games in game 4 or less, and non-division away +3 to -3, 15-2 straight up, and 13-1-3 against the spread. Chip likes to do this as well, and I'm a firm believer of it, and I'm sure Paul is too. But I haven't asked him that, and he could chime in on this. But when you get a favorite of -2.5 or less, why not go on the money line, folks? Right now, it's only -118. Up to 135, I would go, even if it was that high, because we don't hesitate to lay 135 in baseball. Why are you hesitating to lay 135 in football? if you like a side. Anyway, I'm going with Green Bay minus 118 on the money line over Atlanta. Paul, your feeling on when you do, I'm not saying in this particular matchup, but when you have a side that's minus 2.5 or less, and you can catch a reasonable number on the money line, is that what you're more apt to do, or you don't like to lay the extra juice?
No, I opt for the money line, just because we've all been there. You lay 1.5, you lay 2.5, and you win by 2, or you win by 1, and you end up losing. And it's a very painful feeling. So at the very least, I split it. If it's 1.5, I might buy it down to 1, because at least I'll get the push. And, these math guys may argue with this strategy, and I don't care. That's the way I've been doing things. That's the way I want to do it. And I'll continue to do it that way. Now, as far as the game, you make great points about Atlanta. I watched that Carolina game. I watched the replay. I wouldn't watch that game real time with other more compelling games on. But okay, so Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard were running through the Falcon defense. And you make a great point about Ritter, because Ritter wasn't great in college to begin with. So now he takes the step up, and you wonder, how good is this guy really going to be? Atlanta was dominated. I can't even believe they won that game. But of course, turnovers is the undoing of many teams. And it was on Sunday for Carolina. I would side with Green Bay here. I agree with you.
And Chipper, the juice only counts when you lose, right, buddy? The last I checked.
Well, what was that? I'm sorry.
The juice only counts when you lose. The last I
That's
checked.
right. And I like that idea. That's why I was sort of like fading the Chargers this weekend, because I thought that line was very short, 2.5 at home, and I didn't use them. And I use them as a free play. That really doesn't count right here. But I think Carolina was very fortunate to win this game. They were very lucky to go up against one of the 3 number 1 draft pick quarterbacks starting their very first game. These rookies, and all 3 of them went down. Houston went down, the Colts went down, and so did Carolina. So I think that was one of the advantages Falcons had, was playing against a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, out of the 3 rookies, I think the biggest upside that I see at the NFL level right now, as we speak. Now, it's a fluid situation, Paul, right, but I think Anthony Richardson might be the best of the 3. Although he played at Florida and didn't have the successes the other 2 did at the college level at Ohio State and Alabama. Chip, you want to chime in first before we get to Paul on that?
Yeah, that was one of my negative plays, was having the Colts, and seeing Richardson get down to the 5-yard line with 10 seconds to go, and he gets hurt. Minshew comes in for 2 plays, and they don't cover. They could have had a backdoor cover easily, but it didn't happen. And that's what happens when you have poor teams and you have rookie quarterbacks. I mean, he's running the ball like we talked about how quarterbacks are supposed to. And the play he got hit on, he ran hard and put his head down. He didn't slide. He wasn't looking to avoid contact at all. And he had to be removed from the game. And I think it's a learning lesson for him. I hope. He's a big guy. He's a big kid, but poor play there knocked him out of the game.
Yeah, learning lesson for Josh Allen too. Paul, your thoughts?
I have to be honest with you. I've not watched a replay of that game. That was not one of the games I was focused in on Sunday. So I want to reserve comment till I see a little bit more, and I will get through my all of my games by Wednesday morning, and that's usually how it works. So I'll just defer to you 2 pros.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And there you have it, folks. I mean, same thing with all of us. If we don't have enough information or can't make an intelligent comment, some of you might not think we're intelligent at times, but we are, especially when it comes to sports betting. You just don't throw something out there for the sake of throwing it out there. All right, so reviewing again, I'm going to go with Green Bay on the money line minus 118 over Atlanta. Chip Chrimbes likes the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars to go over the total of 51. And Paul Bovi, he likes the LA Chargers and Tennessee Titans to go over the total of 45. Chipper, what might you have going on this week, and want to bring the people up to speed on maybe some hot streaks you may have going on right now?
Well, I'm in mourning over that Texas Tech loss. I'm still having trouble getting through that. That was my top play of the
You
weekend.
just ruined my day, Chip. You ruined my day.
You're the one who texted me and told me when we were on the phone and told me what happened, and I got sick. But these standalone games I've done really, really well with. Sunday night, Monday night, I had Dallas and I had the Jets, and I look forward to the Thursday night game and the Sunday and Mondays. But I'm going to deliver at least 3 games in a 3-game best bet package, possibly my Fab 5 if the games measure up. I only came with 3, actually 4 games on Sunday. I split out and then 1 for the weekend on Monday. So log on, follow the buy links. And like you said, these plays are guaranteed, and you're getting the top plays, the top 3 every weekend.
College football as well, Chip. You usually put out a nice plethora of games on Saturday.
Yeah, I do. I usually like to put out 5. I only put out 3 this weekend because, like we said, the information is sketchy the first weeks. And until we have a resume and something to build off of and work off of, I think I'll be back in full bore with Fab 5 this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and the other point is, half of the schedule seemed like it was FBS versus FCS teams. So that puts a little damper.
It cuts down the amount of games you can play. I mean, I'm not into laying 31 points. I'm not going to lay 25 points. I'm looking for a competitive game where I can possibly have maybe an underdog win the game outright or for a favorite to get there. So those games, when you're playing teams that aren't even in the same stratosphere as you are, it makes it tough for us because we have to eliminate so many of those games. At least
Paul's
I
not
do.
afraid. Yeah, well, Paul's not afraid to lay those big numbers. So I know I've seen that anyway. I don't think he makes a habit out of it. But if he sees something he likes and thinks, again, he goes by coaches too. There's some coaches that, want to put the hammer down. And in this day and age, when you're trying to improve your status in terms of playoff possibilities and tiebreakers, style points means a lot. But Paul, I can't speak for you. Tell the folks on that topic, number 1, and number 2, what you may have coming up this coming week, or anything else you'd like to share with the audience in terms of your picks for sale at the site.
Well, as far as laying big numbers, again, you made the point. It's being selective with it. You have to be selective, evaluate the coaches, the situation. As the year winds on and these coaches are trying to catapult their team up the rankings, they're going to pile on points. And just remember, when you bring in the understudies, these guys are trying to score. I mean, they've been sitting on the bench, waiting in the wings. It's kind of not like the pros where the coach will say, hey, take the foot off the gas and let's just run the clock. Let's just burn it. You saw that New Orleans, Tennessee. Hey, if that was a college game, New Orleans probably would have punched it in from the 8-yard line and blew the cover for the Titan backers. But that didn't happen because it's the pros. It's a different mindset. As far as myself, I had a choppy weekend in college. I'm not going to lie. I hit a few, lost a few. Sunday, best bet was the Browns. Lost, split the other 2. So, but in the end, I always get them. And I do very well in college weeks 3 and 4 because I think you can see the foundation of these teams forming, and you're still getting value in the number before the books catch up with it. So I'm going to have a big week. I know it. I already posted something, 1 game in the NFL, and I feel I've gotten a lot of value here. There's injuries in play on it, and I think the number is going to move in my direction as it usually does. And as far as college, I'll have 3 plays up. 2 of them will be totals at the very least, and possibly up to 5 games, and we're going to win. So stay confident as I am, and let's get it done.
Yeah, I was having a good day, Paul. Today, until Chip brought that Oregon and Texas Tech game up. We had Texas Tech, both of us, +6, and they were down 1 with the ball with less than a minute to go on their own 42. The guy tries a screen pass. It gets intercepted. Instead of taking a knee, the Oregon defender, because Texas Tech had no timeouts left, he decided to take it all the way for a touchdown, and we fell short as they lost.
But his parents were in the
We're
stands,
happy.
and
Yeah.
So
If he took a knee, I would have sent the parents the money to pay for his tuition in his senior year, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. Those kind of things happen. We don't talk about it when it goes our way. We just talk about it when it goes against us like that. It's just, human nature. Anyway, folks, you could find me at gamblersworld.net, just like these two gentlemen. My NFL September, as I alluded to last week, I was 139 and 75 going into week one in the month of September since 2010. I went 2-5 in the NFL. Look at, as Paul just alluded to and Chip did too, we tell you when we lose. I mean, This is transparency, it's honesty, it's integrity, it's about being professional. This isn't a podcast or a TV show from the 70s with everybody yelling and screaming and giving out 85-3 records. That does not exist here, and it never will. But 141-80 in the month of September in the NFL, 64% since 2010. That's documented right at Sports Capping. College football since December 3rd of last year, 22-13, last 35. Had my top play last week on Miami of Florida +4. They went outright over Texas A&M. Like these gentlemen, I'm going to up the ante this week. And like Paul just said, I'm telling you, I'm going to kick some ass this week. So you better go to gamblersworld.com or .net and buy our selections, my selections, Paul's selections, Chip's selections. And no, folks, don't listen to these people who say, you got to be a fool to buy these guys' picks. No, you're a fool if you don't. Okay, these free picks are great. But also, folks, keep in mind, NFL, college football, combination of NFL, college football package, all affordable. $5.99 for the NFL, $5.99 for college football, $8.99 a discount if you get both from all three of us or any of the guys over at the Winner's Circle, or gamblersworld.net. Okay, and your best bet is to get that discounted package and give us the trust that we're going to make you money over the long haul. And that's exactly what Paul was trying to touch upon. All right, there's a like button underneath the video box here. Just click on that. You know what I mean? That's all we're, guys. It doesn't take us much to make us happy. You click on that, it's just a small token of appreciation for the work, time, effort, and preparedness we put into these shows to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. It's like giving a bartender a chip or a tip from Chip. Anyway, until the next time, for Chip Chrimbes, Paul Bovi, and Ross Benjamin, I'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless, folks.